Hey everybody, welcome to another summer reading craft. This week we're going to revisit something we did before, but we're going to do it with a little bit more pride, if you will. Yes, for Pride Month, we're going to do a rainbow cloud with the sun string art. The first thing I did was paint my board because I decided, well, first of all, this board was kind of stained and stuff from being in the store. So I decided the best thing to do was to paint it. I painted it sky blue. The one we're going to demonstrate today, I'm actually going to paint purple just for a change. We're going to include a little bit of rainbow yarn. However, one thing I thought would be kind of cool is if you're doing this and you have a different flag that is not a rainbow flag, you could do your non-binary, you could do your gay, lesbian, trans, anything, and make your rainbow your rainbow. Okay? I think it's going to be cool. One thing I would recommend that I did not do and should have is you should really sand down the edges. Most of the boards I'm giving you are in pretty good shape. This one was a little bit rough, as I said. It was a little stained. But you can see here where the grain of the wood is making it really rough. Doesn't bother me for my demo, but if I were doing this as a gift for someone or something like that, I would definitely sand down my edges a little bit better first, just so it's gonna look a little bit fancier. Um, you're gonna get two templates in your kit. You're gonna get just a regular cloud, because maybe you're just feeling cloudy. That happens. And cloud with the sun. I decided I wanted to do the cloud with the sun because this kind of adds a little extra dimension and it reminds us the sun will always come out, until what, 150 million years from now when it doesn't, but that's neither here nor there. Um, One thing I did these, you could also use strings of colored beads and then hang this above a window and let the beads hang down. You could buy tassels. I'm gonna show you how to make these guys. It was actually a little tricky, surprisingly. I know, it seems strange, doesn't it? This should be an easy thing, especially since we had the tassel tutorial 2 years ago. Yeah, it was still a little tricky, but I'm going to show you how to do it. The important thing is, along this bottom row, know you're going to put at least 6 or 7 nails. I put 7 because I Roy G. Biv'd in my head and then realized I only had 6 colors for my rainbow. What are you going to do? Okay. Give me one moment. Let me finish collecting my supplies and we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so in your kit, you're going to have a little foam brush. Be sure to hang on to this. You're going to need it later this summer for another craft. So when you're all finished, you want to be sure to give it a good rinse. Okay. Whatever acrylic paint you have at home will be perfect. I'm going to squish some out on here. I'm not overly concerned. But I would definitely start with the edges because those are going to be the hardest part. Did I sand this one after I said that you should sand them? No, I did not. Because I was kind of excited to see how the purple paint looked. So don't be like me. Sand off all your edges so nobody gets splinters. So see how we're just covering this? Be sure you have a good place for this to land and dry. Okay. I've run out of paint, so pour a little more on. Okay. I'm also not afraid of using too much. These boards are just raw wood, so they are going to absorb, and they are going to dry pretty quick, too. All right. This is the epitome of painting yourself into a corner. I wanted to get as much of the edge part done as possible because painted, once the edges are painted, it's super easy to just lay down and finish the top. Always check all your edges. Okay. See those rough parts? It just adds texture. It's fine. purple already. I'll wash that when I go to wash my brush. The nice thing about acrylic paint is it usually washes off your hands pretty well. Okay. Nice place to land and to finish painting. The only problem with the foam brushes is they do tend to suck up a lot of paint, so you might have to squeeze it around to get the rest of the paint out. Okay. We're going to let that dry and we will be right back. So after this is finally dry, the next thing you're going to need is going to be your nails, which came in a little cup. You're going to need a hammer, and you're going to need your two templates. You've got just a regular cloud one, like I said, or you have the one with the sunshine. I decided I want to do the one with the sunshine because it is a little bit tricky to trade colors in the middle. It'll be okay. First thing I'm going to do first, you cut it down so you've got a nice close border. Then I'm going to fold it along that bottom line. That's going to help me center everything on my piece of wood. There were only a couple that were this shape, okay? They required a slightly smaller template. It's okay because it is. So this, I'm going to want to be sure if this is my center. So I want this to be as level here. Now I'm going to lose a little bit of the sunshine rays out here at the edges. That's okay. Once I get it placed, I'm going to take a little piece of tape it down. Okay, unfold it. And now we're going to start with the pounding of the nails. Okay. So by folding this allowed me to actually visually check and make sure everything was level. As you see, I did not bother balancing things on my mat because there's too much distance. But I did want to make this so that it could fold down and I could still work. I'm going to place one here where this kind of starts to turn a corner. Okay. And I'm going to place one over here where it kind of starts to turn a corner. And no, I'm not going to drive nails completely straight. I don't have that ability. If you're a better crafter, you will be able to do it. And if they're not perfectly perpendicular, that is okay too. Don't worry about it. You can always tap them a little bit to make them a little straighter. The thing is, you don't want them going inward. Outward would be a little bit better, but do as best as you can to get them to go straight up or down. Now, if I do 7, so I've got my two ends, so it'll be red and purple, assuming I had an indigo, which I don't. That's okay. So then I'm going to put one in the center. Now, when we're all finished at the end, we're going to come back and pound everything in a little bit further too. So we don't have to drive them all the way in right now. Then I'm going to kind of divide this visually into thirds. This is an art, not a science, but if you want to make it more scientific, you can get out your ruler and make little marks where you want everything so it will be perfect. I'm not that concerned because for me, life is not perfect, as you know, especially when it is an art and not a science. Oops, look at that. It got too much. That's okay. If it's not in the right place, I can use my hammer, pull that guy out. The beauty of it is nobody will ever know because once we start doing the string, that's going to get shifted into the background and nobody will ever see it. See, sometimes you have to do a little autocorrect. There, be there. Okay. So those are pretty good. You'll see, well, you can tell I'm definitely right-handed. Everything got driven a little bit crooked. It's okay. Again, not going to worry. But I like having those spaced out so that I can then go on. I would put one at each point. and then do a couple around the curve. I would also do one here where these two things join. These are going to get used quite a bit. So put one at this point. And if you've seen that trick where you can put the nail in the claw and do your first strike, you can't do that. These nails are too short. I know because I tried because I was curious. And if you haven't seen that, it's on YouTube or TikTok or something as a tip or trick. And on these curves, I like to put two. I will say I was thinking about this, and if you wanted to get super, super, super fancy, you could also draw a heart here. Okay, cut that out, and then instead of putting your string all the way through across, take and loop at the heart. Again, I'll put a couple examples on the uh, sheet that I make, or not the sheet, I'm sorry, on the Pinterest board that I make. I'll have a couple examples that have like the little cutout guy. So you can see, because I've seen some, I saw one that had, it was an outline of Illinois, and then it had a heart up in the Chicago area. I was like, that's pretty cute. Oh, I want one here at this point, because that's a deep indent, and we want to be sure we get that shape. Now, sometimes these guys come pretty close together. Sometimes they spread out a little bit. You stand up straight there, buddy. See, you didn't know you were going to watch somebody pound nails today, did you? Yeah. Or mess up pounding nails. Yeah. Don't tell my grandpa he'd be gravely disappointed, especially after all that time we spent out on his back patio pounding nails. And then grandma would come home and say, "It sounds like I got a bunch of woodpeckers out here." And then we'd have cookies because it was the 80s and that's what we did. Okay. Okay. And then when we get ready to do the sun, see, I kind of also like having one at the apex of the curve. We'll make that a little easier now for the sunshine. And then we'll do the beams last. Now, one thing, a couple years ago when we did this, we did the leaves. Sorry, I've been watching Canadian sitcoms, so everything's the leaves, and it's not. I'm going to go ahead and put one right here at the end. And I'll tell you why, because that's actually going to make, if we do our sunbeams, if we do our sunbeams connected like this, having one at each end will actually make this a lot easier, because then I can just do one at the end and then one out here. Did I do it right here? No, I did not. That's okay. We can put an extra guy. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that nail out and move it a little bit. That is the joy of nail art, is you can just pull them out because they aren't in that far. Okay, and now I'm going to do one at the end. Sometimes the nails don't want me to hold on to them. You got to be careful because I'm coming up on the edge here and I definitely don't want to put a nail where there is no wood underneath. So is this all the way at the end? No, it is not. However, it's really close to the edge of the board, and I'd rather have it inside a little bit to make my life that much easier than to have it all the way out and being super awkward. Okay. There we go. So once we're done, I'm going to peel this tape off, and I'm actually going to be able to reuse it in a little bit. Oops. Or not. Tape's cheap. Okay. Now we're going to peel this template off. Okay. It may not all want to come up. Remember, we did just drive nails down through the paper. So the paper may tear and leave little bits stuck at the base of the nails. Now, I do not have a pair of tweezers where I am. If you have tweezers at your home, this would definitely be a very good job for the tweezers. Since I don't have any with me, I'm going to use 2 nails and come in and use them as pincers, which is really hard. You have to be much more coordinated than I am. Or fingernails. Sometimes fingernails work. This is not one of those times. Go find some tweezers. It'll make your life easier. Okay, so once you have this, and we're just going to, there we go. Ah, sometimes you see justice being done, and it is a glorious thing. So, okay. Now you got 2 things of embroidery floss. You got a white one, and you got a yellow one. What I would recommend, and I discovered this last time, is I would put it on your wrist like a bracelet for this part. Because if you don't, it's all going to get all tangled up and be an unholy mess. Okay? Trust me. I'm going to start a knot, start just a regular square knot, and I'm going to put it on one of the nails. And then I'm going to finish my square knot. Okay? Or I will try to. You ever have one of those days where your fingers are just like, no, I'm not doing what you want? Yeah. Okay. Once that is good and tight, I'm going to take a little bit of glue, and this is optional. You do not have to do this. But I'm not sure how else to get the strings to stay strung, so I'm going to take a little bit of glue. And yes. Oh. And I'm going to stick the embroidery floss to itself, just a little bit. Just, that's maybe half an inch away. So those 2 strands are getting glued together. This will make it easier for me to, it'll make it easier for me to do that. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit for a moment because I forgot. Before we can get to the actual string art portion, we need to do our tassels. We wait and try to do our tassels at the end. Life is going to be hard and we're going to hate everything. The other hard part about this is these can't just be standard tassels because there's really not enough yarn. So this is my trick. So I'm going to let this sit and dry for a few minutes while I show you. Let's just get that solid in there. Show you what I do. So the first thing, of course, we're going to start with red. First, I'm going to cut this first in half. So I line up my 2 bottoms. Okay. Cut Now it's in half. Line up the bottoms again. Now it's in quarters. Take one out, fold this in half. So I've got 6 little strings. You could do it again if you wanted, but I think that would be a little harder. I'm going to make this so there's a loop. Set that down. My glue is still drying. Take this guy, and about in the middle, I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to tie the first half of a knot. So just over, under, through. Okay. I'm going to take this string, one arm through the loop, and pull it through the back. Okay. Keep this side on this side, and then I'm going to squish this out to the end, not all the way off the end, just up, so it's just the tippy tops of all those loops. I'm going to pull it tight. Okay, so I've got a little tiny nubbin guy here up at the top, half knot with one through here. I'm going to take this, start my knot out here. It's much easier if you're not working around the nail the entire time. Start it here, square knot, again, tight, and then I'm going to flip this up out of my way and finish the knot around the nail. Okay. When I flip this back down, now I'm back to having 8 little pieces of tassel. Yes, 2 of them are a little short. That's okay. We're going to come and trim these up again at the end. I also have enough of a little lump up here. It's not going to get shifted around. Okay. Then we're ready for orange. We're going to do the same thing. And yes, I will fast forward a little bit through the other ones, but I want to show you one more time. So cut your orange in half, fold it in half again, cut it again. Okay, take one string out. Oop, just one, guys, come on. You're all going to be together in the end. Okay, fold this in half and leave a little loopy guy. Do just over, under, okay. Lace one through your loops. Okay, this is actually going to stop you from being able to pull it all the way off. Okay. Yeah. Pull this almost all the way to the end. Pull those guys tight. Okay. Tight, tight, tight. Take this guy. Start your knot before you get there. Tie it to your string, just that half turn. Flip this guy up and over, and do the other half of your knot. Okay. Like I said, after we finish tying all these guys, we're going to come by and trim them. For right now, everything is nice and snug. This is still drying, so I am going to trim a little bit of this guy off. Okay. And I'll go ahead and tie the rest. Okay, and as I finish up this last one, okay. Now, when I originally did this, I thought it was going to be oh, well, we'll just do the thing where you loop the yarn around itself and do a half pull, like a half hitch, like where you do this. It turns out that's really thick. Since we need room for our string. Oh, and that nail is loose now. Okay, there we go. That's why I like this. You get to use the hammer. Um, yes, it is okay that some of these are longer than the others. That is fine, because now we're going to come back and trim. It's just like cutting your bangs, right? Only do it when you're really paying attention to what you're doing. All right. So look at that. We got this nice little baby rainbow. Okay. Now we're going to start winding. Keep it in your cloud for right now. So just around, be sure to put this back on your wrist to keep it from getting tangled around itself. And just go any direction. It does not matter. If you get to a place and you're like, ooh, I want to change directions, wrap it all the way around the nail. Or if you have a problem where it starts coming unraveled, which you will, it will happen. You can always loop it around the nail an extra time. I like to also use my fingers to keep it from slipping off the nail head while I go to the next one. And while I'm keeping my tension high, I am not keeping it so high that it's pulling out nails. Now what I'm doing right this second is I'm doing an outline around every guy, and I don't want it to come undone, so I'm kind of holding them in place. And as you go, oops, as you go around, I like doing this as a guide. Yeah, see, I can switch. Oh, see, it all came undone. So then we got to start all over again, but not all over, just most of the way over. I'm going to start from this nail this time. I'm going to go around. Ah, I know. You've missed my sound effects over the last year, haven't you? Yep, I know. As you go, you can slide these strings down when you start to run out of room. Okay. You can also just run it around like this. Anytime you get to a corner, go around the corner. There. Now we have a pretty nice outline, and we can start going back and forth as many times as you want. And as far or as close as you want. And yes, sometimes moving it around helps. Oops. When you get to a point like this, you hold it down. Aha, that nail does not want to be caught. It does not know. It has no choice. Okay. Oops, that didn't. You do have to watch out for splits like that, where just one of the threads of the embroidery floss catches, because that's going to mess you up in the future. Okay. That nail wants to come out. There. So I'm going to do this. I am not going to do the entire cloud all at once because I want the sunshine to sit down inside a little bit. Let's see, let's put her on that one. That'll work. So I'm going to do, oh, I don't know, till it looks right, till it looks about halfway done. We're not even half. We can just do a little bit. Okay, you want to wrap around that nail that way? I will let you. Okay, this seems like a good place to be. I'm going to take another piece of tape and tape this right here so it doesn't come unwound. Take my first stylish bracelet off and put my second stylish bracelet on, or I will in just a moment, as soon as I get this tied off. Let's see, I bet if we do it in a slip knot, that didn't work. That's okay. No, because I tied it the wrong way. I don't feel like untying that knot. I'm going to cut that little piece off. Okay. As much as I've crocheted in the past, you would think I would be able to tie a slip knot in my sleep. You would be wrong. I'm having a day. Can't remember. So we'll just tie a regular square knot, just like we did before, because that's about where my brain is. Tie that there. Just tying your knot. And again, I can take this and just slide it down, make myself more room. That's one thing I like about this. Do you see how many strings I have, how compact it is? That's because I could slide down and add more, slide down and add more. And I like that. Take a little bit more glue. Oops. Remember to clean off the tip of your glue. Now, I'm sure there are fancy people who, one, are able to tie better knots than I am. That doesn't take a lot of skill. But who know how to actually make these guys stick together or just not come undone. Okay. And with the heat and the pressure of my fingers, I'm getting these guys to bond. I'm also gluing myself to the string just a little bit, tiny bit. That's okay. I don't mind. Doesn't bother me. I used to be covered in glue. When I was a bookbinder, I had an apron that I think it was bulletproof because it was so coated in glue just from wiping my hands on it. Okay. Trim a little bit off this. And again, I'm going to start by going around all my little edges. Since this is a little bumpy. All my little sunshiny edges. Okay. And then I can start crossing. Now, obviously, the yellow isn't going to take nearly as much time as the white. Oops. And I am probably pulling this too tight, but that is how I do. And again, if you wear it like a bracelet, you're less likely to get tangled up in itself. but I like to go as many different directions as possible. See how everything kind of lays off to one side? So then I can come back in here, go to this corner, wrap that, come down here, come back up here. Watch out for splits. Do this a little bit. Okay, fine. And yes, I do actually talk to my string most of the time I'm working because a lot of times it's doing stuff I don't want it to do. Probably doesn't help, but it does help my brain, so I'm going to work with it. Okay. Ooh, that one. That's a good one. Then, when I come around these corners, I can also come up and do one little guy or two or three to wrap around my sunshine beam. Okay. I want to go all the way around this guy to lock in my direction. It doesn't want to, but I'm the one with the brain, so I'm going to make it work. Okay, this, oops, and back around a couple of times. And again, after I finish with one sunbeam, push it down. Come back, wrap around another one. But I'm going to fool everybody. I'm going to come back. Wrap around this guy, out to my furthest out nail, 2, 3. Push that down. Push those down. Yep. Come out to this guy. Push this down. That's going to be my mantra for this craft. Just push this down. It'll be fine. Okay. Ugh. Until it decides it doesn't want to do what you want it to do. And then it's just annoying. Fine, you come here. Sorry, it keeps moving. Kind of need a non-skid. My mat is not a non-skid mat. Okay, that's great. We'll come back over here and over here. Get my last sunbeam. Whoops. Don't get your strings crossed. It's very much Ghostbusters up in here too. Okay. And then before I tie everything off, I'm going to do at least one more back around all my sun base. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of tail. There we go. Yellow. So we did not use up all the yellow at all. Gonna tie a little half knot, slip it around one of the nails. Oops. Go over there. Okay. Now to finish this, you do have to lift that string up a little bit. Okay. Oops, don't go there. Okay. And finishing knot. And again, oh, let's unwind this from myself. I know I've wound myself up. Would not be the first time. Okay. Going to take a little bit of glue. Again, I know. Aren't you tired of just that little bit of glue? Put just a little dab on the string. I'm going to trim that pretty close. And then if you have your tweezers or whatever, you can kind of tuck that in. And nobody will ever see that you had an end of your string right there. Okay. And then you can come back and we're going to finish up the white side on string or on tape. Put your very fashionable bracelet back on. Okay. Just make sure you don't have glue all over yourself. And then we're going to wind. And it's going to be most of this embroidery floss. Okay. Now, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come back up and go over the sunshine, where the sunshine and the cloud meet. I'm going to come back and do another row of cloud white. Okay. Okay. Just to give us that little bit of differentiation there. And we just keep wrapping, and I like to make sure all my nails have something wrapped around them. When it gets a little crowded, slide everything back down the nails. Slide everything back down. I'm using my fingernails. You could use the edge of your scissors. Oops. Okay. Or you have to unwind sometimes a little bit. Okay. Go. And, of course, to finish this off, give yourself a little bit of a tail. Oh, and my scissors decide they don't want to cut. Ugh. Only one nail, please, and thank you. Okay. Tighten that. Oops. Tighten that, and then one more. Because I didn't close my glue, I've got a little dot right there. Cut this. Tuck this guy right around here, where nobody will ever notice. Okay. And then we get out the hammer. Hammer. Okay. And now you have your very own cloud, rainbow, and sun, or just a cloud and a rainbow, or just a cloud. I suppose if you don't want to do your castles, you don't have to. But I personally, you know me, everything rainbow. All right, everybody, thank you so much for visiting me. Thank you for taking the time. We're going to have a couple of quick crafts coming up, so they will not have such long video tutorials. If you have any questions, please feel free to check out the Richmond Park Public Library's Pinterest website, where I will have instructions on how to do string art. Not this exact project, but stuff like it. Okay, thank you all so much. Have a great one, and we'll see you soon.